Good mic technique. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to 2022's last ordinary meeting of Council. It's December the 14th. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands, waters and skies, the Wadawurrung people. We acknowledge and respect their continuing connections to land, water and sky and culture, and the contribution they make to the life and spirit of our community. We pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and extend this respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Before the meeting begins, it is open at 7 p.m. I would like to also acknowledge the passing of former Mayor George William Anderson, or Bill, as he was known in the community. Bill passed on November 29th this year in Point Lonsdale, and he was 89. Bill was a councillor at the Borough of Queenscliff for 6 years from 1970 until 1976, and he served as the mayor in both 1974 and 1975. These recollections come from his son, Paul, and we happily relay them here tonight. Bill was a civic-minded member of the community. Right from the beginning of his life in Point Lonsdale, he was a community man, running TOC H Children's Camp, working with the St James Anglican Church, teaching at Queenscliff High School for nearly 30 years, serving as a councillor and mayor, and a lifetime passion and involvement with music and dance hall days at the Bellarine Peninsula. He supported community aid abroad, Freemasonry, civic associations, and lived a life dedicated to serving the community. We thank Bill for his service and send our condolences to the family. Item number 2, apologies. All councillors are present and we welcome Councillor Grigow back after a leave of absence. Mr CEO, any apologies? Item number 3, pecuniary interests and conflict of interest disclosures. Councillor Hewitt.
Like to note that in relation to planning application 2022/098 for 48 Flinders Street, Queenscliff, that planning application has now been finalised, so I no longer have a conflict despite it being noted in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to have you back in the room. Item 5, public question time. 5.1, public questions status update. There are no public questions outstanding. Item 5.2, public questions. We have received 5 public questions this evening. Public question number 1 comes from David Connolly, who is not here, so I'll read this out. In its risks assessment, the audit committee fails to refer to noted DELP concerns over the impacts to native vegetation and trees. However, the audit committee in its minutes refers to 2 separate PINs in relation to Victoria Park, with council just recently satisfying the second PIN that appears to relate to council operations or weaknesses in recording processes, its recording processes. The second PIN saw council procuring and purchasing specialised software to further improve the process around the monitoring of trees. Can council provide comment on this additional monitoring system at an unknown cost, and whether the system is designed to retain and improve tree health and maintenance regimens, or will it simply address a possible historic unsatisfactory recording system for our significant trees that still lacks a proper and adequate protection register and a clear public permit process for works? David, welcome. We've just completed your question and I will invite the CEO to respond.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, and thank you, David, for your question. Council allocated $120,000 for a new tree management system as part of the 2022-23 budget. The new tree management system will encompass all aspects of tree management on public land undertaken by council. A component of the tree management system will be a software solution that incorporates a register of managed trees, ongoing monitoring of tree health, and records of tree maintenance history. The software component of the system has not been procured at this point.
Thank you. Question 2 comes from the QCA. David, are you happy for me to read it out? In relation to the application for a helipad at 6 McDonald's Road in a separate environmental matter, can council provide any further information or action taken in relation to the noted wetland that existed on the site that, according to council, was filled between November 2016 and November 2017 on the property? I'll also refer to the CEO.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your question, David. At this point, no further information is available.
Public question number 3 comes from Christine Rees. Can the senior planner explain why he considers that the referral to the Federal Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water about controlled actions under the EPBC Act 1999 is a separate process when EPBC Act Policy Statement 3.21, Industry Guidelines for Avoiding, Assessing and Mitigating Impacts of the EPBC Act, listed migratory shorebird species, states that a referral should be made as early as possible during the planning and development stages of the proposal? Through you, Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Christine, for your question. I'll respond. The senior planner is unavailable tonight. Look, our understanding is that under the Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act in 1999, you can only refer a project to the Department of Climate Change, Energy and the Environment and Water if you are the person who's proposing to take the action, a Commonwealth, state or territory government or an agency that's aware of a proposed action with administrative responsibilities relating to that action. Council does not fit under the definition of agency in the Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act 1999.
Public question number 4 comes from Jenny Knox. I don't think Jenny's here. Now that the Federal Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water Department have taken interest in this planning application, and it may be reviewed under the EPBC Act and may become a controlled action, what will council do to ensure that the requirements of the EPBC Act are being met and the controlled actions are being adhered to? And I'll invite the CEO to respond.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Jenny, for your question. Look, council should not preempt the decision of the Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water. However, council has no formal role or statutory power to enforce EPBC Act permit conditions. That's the responsibility of the Commonwealth.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. And the final question tonight, number 5, comes from Marvin Brown. The fly neighbourly arrangement referred to by DELP, whether council had thought it was appropriate or not, and if so, how is it monitored and enforced? This matter will be considered at item 15.2 in tonight's agenda, so we will provide a response at the conclusion of that determination. That brings us to item number 6, confirmation of council meeting minutes. 6.1. Ordinary meeting of council, 23 November 2022. Councillors, we have a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Grout. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Hebbles. All in favour? So passed. Thank you. Item 6.2, Audit and Risk Committee meeting, 5 December 2022. The copy of the minutes is attached at Appendix 1. We have a recommendation to adopt the minutes as distributed. Do I have a, thank you, Councillor Hewitt, a mover and a seconder? You were there. Me. Okay. I will second the motion. All in favour of adopting the minutes as recorded? So passed. Didn't tell me about that one. Item number 7, record of informal meetings of councillors. The recommendation is that the record of informal meetings as presented be noted. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Seconder, Councillor Grout, all in favour? Thank you. So passed. Number 8, notice of motion. 8.1, notice of motion status update. The recommendation is that the notice of motion status update as presented be noted. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Seconder, councillor Ebbels. All in favour? Thank you. So passed. Item number 9, petitions and joint letters. 9.1, in accordance with the Borough of Queenscliff governance rules, a petition or joint letter presented to the council must lay on the table until the next ordinary meeting of council, and no motion other than to receive the petition or joint letter may be accepted by the chairperson unless the council agrees to deal with it earlier. 9.1.1, railway crossing petition. The petition was laid on the table for consideration at this meeting, and we do have a recommendation before us on page 9 of the agenda. Councillors, do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Ebbels, and a seconder for adopting the recommendation. Councillor Hewitt, thank you. All in favour? Thank you. Item number 10, functions attended. We have a recommendation that the functions attended report be received. Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to make 2 changes, please. On the 22nd of November, 2022, the event was the Bellarine Disability Action Group swim safety training at Point Lonsdale Primary School. And the second edition, which I'll give to you after Jackie, is on the 8th of December. I attended the G21 Sustainability Pillar meeting as well. Thank you. Apologies.
Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Do we have a seconder for that amended recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Grout. All in favour? Thank you. Item number 11, Chief Executive Officer Report. Item 11.1 is the report, and it sits under the CEO section of our report. And Mr. CEO, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have much to add to the report itself, except to say that the consultation towards the end of the year has been quite intense, and we do appreciate that we are asking people to respond to council matters quite regularly. But aside from that, the report is tabled for your consideration.
Thank you, Martin. Councillors, we have a recommendation that we receive the CEO report for December 2022. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Ebbels. A seconder, Councillor Grigor. Any questions for the CEO? I'll put it to the vote. All in favour? Thank you. Item number 12, health and wellbeing. There are no reports to consider. Item number 13, environment. Item number 13.1, Victoria Park planting schedule 2022 to 2025. And I'll invite Gihan to present on this side. Oh, pardon me, Stuart. Sorry, Stuart.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. The purpose of this report is to present the Victoria Park planting schedule to Council for its consideration. The report's presented on page 15 of tonight's agenda, with the planting schedule presented in Appendix 2. I'll take the report as read. However, we would like to acknowledge the work already undertaken by the community-driven Friends of Victoria Park group within the western zones of the reserved area. I'd also like to outline that the planting schedules recommended planting densities and species are based on representing a coastal moonal woodland. The planting schedule has consideration of developing and improving the age distribution profile while setting targets for canopy coverage indicative of the coastal moonal woodland community. As such, the planting schedule considers the incremental scheduling of planting for the period of 2022 to 2025. The recommendation tonight is that Council place the Victoria Park planting schedule on public exhibition for a period of 2 weeks to provide opportunity for the community feedback, and request officers to present the Victoria Park planting schedule to Council for endorsement at the earliest opportunity following the public exhibition and consideration of community feedback.
Thank you, Stuart. Do I have a mover for the recommendation before us? Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council A place the Victoria Park planting schedule amended to reflect the correct details of the Queen's Jubilee grant conditions on public exhibition for a period of 2 weeks in January 2023 to provide opportunity for community feedback. And B, request officers to present the Victoria Park planting schedule to council for endorsement at earliest opportunity following the public exhibition and consideration of community feedback.
Thank you, councillor Hewitt. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Thank you, councillor Grigor. Any further questions for Stuart?
Thank you. You did mention the operational cost of ongoing maintenance will be considered during the annual budget process. Do we have a rough guidance what that might be?
I'll take that on notice and provide
Okay.
that information following the meeting.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Stuart. Any further questions? Put it to the, oh, pardon. Yep, councillor Grout.
Yeah, so I just want to say this about the community consultation on this occasion. We're putting one concept plan out there and we would be seeking feedback on that. And I would look forward to the feedback, particularly on comments about the land use in that particular part of Victoria Park. And then details such as, if we need a path, more paths or not, if we retain any grassed areas or not, because of course there's costs associated with those, both in building and or in taking away the grass, as there would be in maintenance. So what sort of amenities do we want? And they're the sorts of questions that I would be, or that's the sort of feedback that I'll be looking to get from this.
Thanks, councillor Grout. And I think that's an opportunity to reiterate that all elements of the plan are on the table for review and consideration, and we invite and welcome feedback on all components of it. So the plan is just that, it's a plan. Nothing has been predetermined or decided upon. So we look forward to hearing from the community on how to make that space even better. We will put it to the vote now. All in favour of adopting the amended? Thank you, councillors. So passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stu. Item 14, local economy. No reports to consider. Item 15, heritage planning and infrastructure. 15.1, planning permit activity report. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. Item 15.1, the planning permit and activity report for December 2022. I'll take it as read. There's 31 current permit applications and the recommendation is to be received. I'll take any questions on you have.
Thank you, Tim. Do I have a mover for the recommendation? Thank you, Michael. And a seconder? Councillor Grigor, thank you. Apologies, I think I called you Michael, not Councillor Grout. Do we have any questions for Tim on the planning report? Councillor Grout.
Yeah, just one question. I meant to flag this, but just confirm, could you confirm councillors will be getting briefings on is 2022/91, that's 2 Stoke Street, Queenscliff. I note that's had 3 objections. And 2022/105, 70 Mercer Street, Queenscliff, that's also had 3 objections.
So I take it from that question, councillor, you're asking for briefings on those matters? Is that?
I'm just asking if we will be receiving them, just if you can confirm, because it's reached the threshold where
Sure.
we would trigger a briefing.
Yes, I can ensure that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Thanks, Councillor Grout. Any further questions for Tim? All in favour of adopting the planning report? Thank you. So passed. Item 15.2, planning permit application 2022/044 at 6 McDonald Road, Queenscliff. Council, we have a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move that council defers consideration of this application to a future meeting.
Put seconder, Councillor Ebbels. All in favour of deferring this planning application decision? So passed. Pardon me, I will return now to the remaining public question from Marvin, and we'll take that on notice. So we'll issue a written response to Marvin in regards to his question. Item 15.3 is planning permit application 2022/083 at 5 Beach Street. We have a recommendation before us. Council, do I have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Grout.
Yeah, I wish to move an alternate motion. And that motion I would want to read out. So having caused notice of planning application number 2022/083 to be given under section 52 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, the Queenscliff Planning Scheme, and having considered all the matters required under section 60 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, resolved to issue a notice of decision to refuse grant of permit under the provisions of clause 43.01 and 43.02 of the Queenscliff Planning Scheme in respect of the land known as described as 5 B Street, Queenscliff, for the part demolition, alterations and extensions to an existing dwelling in a heritage overlay area, construction of fences and variation to the site coverage requirements of design and development overlay. Schedule 6, and it's based on the following grounds. The relocation of the dwelling to the north and incorporation of the new garage to the south will diminish the heritage values of the Fisherman's Flat precinct and is contrary to the purpose of clause 43.01 heritage overlay and the decision guidelines at clause 43.01/8 and the Fisherman's Flat Urban Conservation Precinct Heritage Design Guidelines 2021, which is incorporated into the Queenscliff Planning Scheme. Also, the need for the relocation of the dwelling is not established and will impact on the cultural and historic significance of the Fisherman's Flat precinct, contrary to clause 43.01 heritage overlay and the Fisherman's Flat Urban Conservation Precinct Heritage Design Guidelines 2021. The design of the proposed extension, in particular the inclusion of a rooftop terrace, is contrary to the objectives of the Heritage Overlay Schedule 1, which is incorporated Fisherman's Flat Urban Conservation Precinct Heritage Design Guidelines 2021 and the Design and Development Overlay Schedule 6 in relation to the form and scale of the building and detracts from the single-storey scale and form of buildings in the Fisherman's Flat precinct.
Do I have a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Grigau. I will put Councillor Grout's amended motion or alternate motion to the vote. All in favour?
Can I speak to the motion?
Oh, pardon me, of course you may.
Look, I think the move for me is not being sufficiently justified. I think it would be possible to conserve this building that does contribute to the heritage in Fisherman's Flat without moving it to incorporate a new garage. The move reduces heritage values in this street and in this precinct. The rooftop terrace also detracts from the precinct's modest architectural characteristics. And this architecture is inconsistent with a precinct of single-storey detached residences. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grout. Councillor Grigau, would you like to speak to the motion? I will put it to the vote then. All in favour? Thank you. Those opposed? The motion is passed. No, not a division. No, thanks, Jackie. Item 16, governance and finance. 16.1, community engagement policy. And I'll invite McKenna to present.
Thank you. Good evening, councillors. Good evening, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to seek approval for the amendments made to Community Engagement Policy CP 003. We have recently undertaken our biannual review of our community engagement policy. This review included a call out for community feedback, of which there was none. We have identified improvements and spliced them into this proposed updated version. These changes are few in number and relatively minor given the comprehensive rewrite and community consultation that was undertaken in 2020. In essence, the suggested changes seek to develop our community engagement practice by improving our inclusivity and our engagement accessibility. Our recommendation is that the Council adopt the revised Council policy, Community Engagement CP 003 as presented.
Thank you, McKenna. Do I have a mover for that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Hewitt, and a seconder, Councillor Ebbels. Any questions for McKenna? No, great work. We'll put it to the vote. Maybe the great work should have come after. All in favour? Thank you. So passed.
Thank you.
Item 16.2, review of council policies. I'll invite Gihan to present on our complaint handling policy and our risk management policy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, councillors. So I'll take this, the report has having been read, but would like to add a few comments about these two policies. Policy on complaint handling. Though this policy was reviewed the November 2021, the proposed revision brings this policy in line with the customer service charter that the council adopted in February 2022. So we have mainly removed some repetitive information and we have rearranged the content to make it very clear this complaint handling process for anyone who would like to refer to this policy. The second policy, the risk management, again, though this policy still sit within the normal review cycle, officers have reviewed it in line with the council's new risk management framework. We have broadly extensively workshopped this policy with councillors, and now even we have identified the risk appetite of each risk category separately, clearly in the policy. Further, we have benchmarked both policies with similar policies of the other councils. So recommendation is on page 74.
Thank you, Gihan. Do I have a mover for the recommendation to adopt both these policies? Thank you, Councillor Hewitt, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Grigau. Any questions for Gihan? Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say, again, I appreciate your time running through these policies, in particular the risk framework, and taking on suggestions made by councils, including, as you say, breaking down the risks into categories. I think it's really important to tighten where we can, and you've been really inclusive with us in the process. So we really appreciate it, and I know the Audit and Risk Committee were grateful for your work as well. So yeah, look forward to continuing to tweak as we go along, but yeah, having obviously a strong overarching risk management framework will be critical to ensure our ongoing success. So thank you, Gihan, for your work.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Gihan? I'll put this one to the vote. Thank you. All in favour, so passed. Item 17, authorisation of signing and sealing of documents, S6, instrument of delegation to staff. The recommendation is that council note the use of the common seal on the S6 instrument of delegation on the 23rd of November. Councillors, do I have a mover for that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Grout, and a seconder, Councillor Ebbels. All in favour? So passed. Item 17.2, Instrument of Appointment and Authorisation, Planning and Environment Act 1987. We have another recommendation to use the common seal on the Instrument of Appointment and Authorisation on the 23rd of November. Do I have a mover for this recommendation? Councillor Hewitt, and seconder, Councillor Grout. Thank you. All in favour? Thank you. So passed. Item 18, questions without notice. 18.1, questions without notice status update, and no questions without notice are outstanding. 18.2, questions without notice. I'll put it to the floor. Are there any questions without notice? No. Thank you, councillors. Item number 19, list of council meetings. So we have a planning review meeting scheduled for February the 8th in 2023, if required, and the first council meeting of 2022 will be on February 2022. There's a lot of twos in that. Wednesday the 22nd of Feb, and that will be moved to Ring. So our new Queenscliff hub for anyone who'd like to join us. Thank you. All those twos. Here there was some. Item number 20, closed session of meeting. I note the time is 7:30. And the recommendation that in accordance with sections 66(1) and 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020, the meeting be closed to members of the public for the consideration of the following confidential items. 20.1, confirmation of the 23rd of November 2022 confidential council meeting minutes. 20.2, implement and support enterprise resource planning. And 20.3, Chief Executive Office annual performance appraisal. So thank you to all those who joined us tonight. Oh, pardon me, I need to move a thanks, Councillor Ebbels, and a seconder, Councillor Hewitt. We'll put it to the vote.